All right, so in the last video, we went ahead and created this door, which is a little bit more advanced. I think I'm going to go in here and just close up this wall. Kind of weird in a video game where, you have this door here, but there's all this spacing. Let's just kind of shift this over a little bit. So essentially for your homework, just try to find a door out there that you like. You could be this exact same one, which would probably be a good idea. And maybe it's a good idea to just kind of copy these two and just Control D and put them here. It helps to be modular, plus when you reuse assets, it saves on things like draw calls. I'm gonna hit R here. I might go with something a little different here. Draw calls are essentially how many times the processor and stuff have to pull, or they're processing like messages coming in. And so you want to keep it pretty lean. All right, we have something like, let's see if we could stack these. I'm gonna fudge it just a little bit. Don't judge me. Just sort of eyeball this a little bit. Now, if you work at a studio, you're probably going to be using measurements. And but for now, we're just kind of learning the tools. And also, it would be kind of cool if we started to think about things like, well, we could reuse these assets, but we can do, neat stuff like maybe this side is not doors, they're just windows, and they have like a cool design like this, where they're stacked on top of each other. So that's kind of like how that window looks. I hit T for the transform tool. It's kind of a nice little, it brings this guy up if you hit T instead of R. And I really like using this tool for so anyway, I'm going to save this out. So this video really is more about animation. So I'm going to go ahead and zero out that Y transform that we did in the last video. And I'm going to take a look at how we can animate this. Now this door looks kind of squished actually, doesn't it? Shouldn't it be more like this? And then just sort of position a little bit towards the center, and then we can pull these side walls in. Actually, let's just leave it alone. I'm going to end up nitpicking everything, and you guys can do that on your own with your stuff. So inside of the art folder, and what we can do is, here's our front door. So inside of our front door, I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call this anims, or animation. And let's delete this guy out because we'll create a new one. And we might have to play with this a little bit, tighten all this stuff up. But anyway, we want the door to open like this once our character walks in. We're going to be coding the triggers to script this. And so for this door, we probably want it to go this way, kind of like a sliding screen door, and we want these to open maybe simultaneously. So with that said, let's start with animating this front door. So we have a front door here, and in our animation folder, what I'm going to do is select this door here. Let's kind of give ourselves some space, and there we go. Okay. So what we can do is go to Window up here, and we can go down to Animation, and then we can create an animator, or we can just click on Animation here. And once we do that, it's going to tell you that you have to create an animator to create an animation clip. So I'm going to hit Create, and inside the Art, Models, Environment, Door, or Models, Environment Assets, Doors, I'm just going to create in that animation folder, Door Open Animation. And I'm going to hit Save, and I'm going to hit this Record button here. Now, what I can do here is I can type in 0.1, and then I'm going to type in 0. And the reason for that is notice there's a little key here. Now, let's say on frame, I don't know, we want this to be really fast. On frame 15, I want this door to open 90 degrees. Now we have an animation here, or if I press play, it opens. And ideally, once it plays, we want it to only open like once and stay there. So once I close this, notice it automatically added this animator component here. And inside of here, it says avatar. We don't have an avatar yet. And then there's this culling mode, always animate, apply root motion. When I press play here, you'll notice that this door is always opening and closing. Now, I'm going to uncheck this for a second because we're going to use that animator component later. But if I go here and I type in animation, this is something we can use just to test it, where it says play automatically, and it's asking for an animation clip. And if we look in the animation folder, we have an animation clip here. We can also click here and find door open. And now when I press play, you could see as I walk up to the door, oh, you know what? I think we need that animator component on, but let's see if we just add this here, if it'll play. I forget if they changed that. Yeah, it doesn't look like it'll play. So that's that animation here. But what we can do, I was going to show you how to do this in another video because I wanted this one really to be more about animation, but I think to get a really good conceptualization of how all this stuff works, I'm going to remove this animation component. We really need to do a little bit of light scripting. So here's our door. Now, remember we dragged this, let's see, where's our front door? Here's our black door here. This is our front door. Really, I should name this front door. Front door. And you might do fright_door_black. And this is how that we generally do it. And then if you have two black doors, you would rename it like black 01A, 01B. All right, so let's go into our scripts folder, which if you don't have one, go to create folder and then just name it scripts. And let's create a C# script here, and let's just call it door opener. Now, this animator component here, what you'll notice is once it's created, it created something called a controller, and it added it in the same folder as our animation. So if I double click this, this is called an animation controller. It's been called mechanim. It's been called the state machine, all this other stuff. But with this activated, when I press play, notice it keeps playing over and over again because it's playing this door animation. So this is the entry, the starting point. That's the door being idle, essentially, and then it goes here. So what we need to do is create a script that says when we walk up to our door, we want it to open. Okay, so it's kind of like our character doing it. And later we'll get a little bit more advanced in scripting and some of you, if you've taken the other programming classes, you might be comfortable with this already, but where you press the E key, it'll play this animation. So anyway, let's go ahead and right click in here and create a state, an empty one, and we're just going to call this state idle. I'm going to go up here in the inspector and just name it idle here. And idle just means it's not doing anything. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to make a transition. And then under parameters on this side here, I'm going to make a new Boolean. I'm just going to call this door open. And I'm going to select this. Now this transition, if I press play now, so I'm going to right click and make this transition my default state, you'll notice it'll essentially do the same thing with the delay because it went from idle to here, right? But I think if we select this, it'll actually show us, yeah. So see how in real time with the door selected, it shows that it went here and then it just keeps playing here. Now what we can do is we can actually copy this animation here. I'm going to hit Control-C, Control-V. And you can see here's door open 1. And I'm going to rename this door close. And I'm just going to change the speed to -1. And what happens here is I'm going to right click, make a transition here, and I'm going to select this and hit delete just for a second to show you. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do it this way. I'm going to right click here, make a transition here, go to door close, right click, make a transition back to idle. So by having this as -1, let's see what happens. So it starts there and it's closing. Do you see how it closes? Now, what's going on here is we can actually use this Boolean here to mark transitions. So for example, from here to here, I'm going to click this and you'll see it added the condition that we created. Now it's not checked, so it's not true. So it's going to stay idle. So as long as door open is true, it'll go here. Now, in order, what we can do is click here, we can add another one, and we could say door open is false. That means it's unchecked. It'll go from here to here. And then what we can do is we can leave this in the idle state. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to press play. Notice it's stuck in an idle state because, remember we made this transition here that says door open equals true. Well, we never tick this. So if I tick this on, you could see it stays in door open. But if I uncheck this, it'll go to door close. Now it's going super fast, right? Like 15 frames, so that's why it's playing so many times. Now we could also do something where, let's see, we can slow it down. So let's do 0.5 here for the door open. And this door close, we can do it -0.5. It'll really slow it down. And then on the animation itself, let's go to door open animation here. You could see it has loop time. We don't want to loop. That's why it keeps opening the door several times. So now when we play this, it should be slower. I checked this on. It only opens once. And that's because we turned off the loop time where it was like looping. And then I uncheck this, the door closes. And now we're stuck in the idle state. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And remember this door open here, right, that we created. All right, let's go and open our script that we created here, which is the door opener script. All right, so we're going to have to attach this door opener script to the door. So we're going to make a public, and then we're going to create something called a public variable that's of type animator. And if you remember from the other classes or the other videos, when you open an animator, what that does is when you write the name animator here, it's going to give us access to, here, let's just go ahead and name this animator lowercase. We made this public animator. We want to get access to that animator component. That's the thing that we were doing that has the triggers and the lines that go from one to the other. So let's go ahead and hook this up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select my door here. And you notice there's an animator component here. And if I grab this door opener script, which is in my scripts folder here, and I just drop it on here, you could see, where's that script now? Here we go, door opener. It's asking for access to this. So I can actually drag this and drop this in here. But ideally in code, you want to use something, you want to get the component from here automatically, because sometimes with Unity, if you save it or you close something or whatever, it'll sometimes clear out these spots. So let's go ahead and script that. So if you recall, start is what's called at the very beginning, once this script is activated or turned on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write animator dot get component. Now the component I want to get is the animator component. That's what's whatever this script is attached to, which is that door, it's going to grab that animator component. So now it should automatically grab that animator component and put it inside of here. Let's go ahead and back into Unity and see how that looks. Well, actually, you know what? It's not animator. It's animator equals get component animator, I believe. Yeah, that's what I want, not dot, sorry. Let's go to Unity and take a look at that. All right, so now when I press play, you can see it automatically found the animator component on the black door. Okay. Very cool. Now, what we want to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to, on this black door here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to create empty. And I'm going to position this empty object in the front of this door. So I'm going to hit F to focus on this a little bit. If you hit F twice, it'll like really zoom in. Let me close this for a second. And I'm going to add a box collider. And I'm going to go ahead and tick on this little guy here under Edit Collider. And I'm just going to play with the shape of this collider So it sits right in front of this door, like this. Now what happens is, if this is a box collider, so you're probably like, well, you probably can't walk through that, right? So if I, let me hit escape a little bit. If I walk up to that door, notice I'm definitely stuck. I can't get through that door. Well, what we're going to be using is a trigger. Now what a trigger is it's a way of checking if a specific game object walks through a door. So I'm going to go to game object here, which is the empty one that we created, and we can call this door collider. I'll just do door col. And I'm going to turn on is trigger. Now we should be able to walk through that collider into the door, which is what we want. But we also want this collider to check if we have a specific character that walks through the door. Well, if we go to our player armature here, you can see it has this tag player here. So remember that with a capital P, because we're going to be using that in a second to trigger this door. So let's go back to our script. All right, so I'm going to just type on trigger, and you can see there's one here called on trigger enter. Oh, it didn't even populate it for me. Let's see if I hit tab twice. Let's try that one more time. So on trigger enter. Oh, you know what? I didn't select one of these. It says on private on trigger enter. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to delete this. And this method is made by Unity. And it checks if anything enters a trigger that this door is on. So remember we have that door collider on this door. So what we're going to say is, and we might have to actually make a public variable, or maybe we have to add the box collider. We might have to change something around. But for now, what I'm going to do is type if and then hit tab twice. If other, which is this variable here, which is checking if any other object has the, it collides with it, dot game object, dot tag is the same as player. What I want to do is I want to grab this animator component. And if you recall, let me pause the video for a second, jump back into Unity. If you recall, if we select our door here, we have this animator component. Oh, let's select our door here. We got to update our door too. We have this animator component, and if we double click this, it's the same as this file here. We created this parameter here called door open, and it's of type Boolean, right? It's a true false. So what we're going to do is we're going to access this animator here, and we want to set this Boolean to true to open it as we enter this script, as we enter that trigger rather. All right, so we're going to do animator.set Boolean. And you remember the Boolean that we're going to access is door open. We got to make sure that it's spelled the same, comma, and what we want to do is we want to set that to true. That's when we walk into the door. So let's save this, and it might not work at first because I think we might have to move the door collider to the door, but let's take a look and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to go back into my scene here. I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and let's see. We have our door opener script here. I'm going to press play, and I think it might not work. Yeah, it did not work. Now, the reason for that is this door opener script or this component is looking for this collider, which should be on this door. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just delete this for a second, and then on my black door, I'm going to add a component, which is a box collider here, and I'm going to click this, and I'm going to move this out like that, and just move it in the front here. So something like this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to make this, because I'd like that door collider. Here, let's do it this way. Here's our door collider, and I'm actually going to, let's see, because I believe if we rotate this, will that door collider move with it? I think it will. You know what, yeah, I think that'll be okay. Okay, let's go back in here. Let's add a box collider, and let's play with its shape. And make sure it's is trigger, play with its shape, pull this out a little bit. Now when we press play, it should open. There we go. So now it opens. The thing is, which honestly in this particular game, we probably don't want it to close, but let's say it's a horror game, right? So let's go back to our script and let's code it so that when we exit this trigger, it closes the door. All right, so below this variable, I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to do on trigger exit, and I'm just going to go ahead and just finish this out. I keep selecting the wrong one, but so on trigger exit, and then we want to do the same, pretty much the same code. Let's grab collider other here, paste it inside of here, boop. And then I'm going to grab this here, paste that in here, and I want to set this to false. So what this is doing is as we exit the collider, and it's the same player, we're going to set this Boolean to false. And you might be like, well, what does that mean again? So let's go back and just reiterate that really quickly, and then we'll test it. So if you recall, if we go ahead and open up our, where's our door? Here's our black door animator here. We have this Boolean. This is true, this is false. So if I press play here and I check this on, it goes through, and I check this off, that's false. So now, let's see if we can get this door to close behind us. So it was a little close. Oh, I know why, because I had left this ticked on. That's why it opened right away. Okay, so now I walk up to this door. Sorry. Opens. Oh. Now when I exit, it closes behind me. Now we don't have the trigger that big where I'm like locked in this room now. And that's okay. Because now we're talking about a horror game. So maybe I have to find like a key or something to get me out of this room. Anyway, so for now, go ahead and finish setting that up. And what we can do in the next lesson is just go in and do a couple other ones for these doors. Really, it's just repeating the steps over and over again for all of your doors.